All right. Good morning. Happy Saturday morning and welcome to our LifeBook in Action is what our new name is. We used to call it a LifeBook focus group. The idea of doing our LifeBook, which is from our Habits of Health and Wellness program, and really going through the elements every week, but not just intellectually knowing the information, but actually talking here about how to implement them and how they show up as really powerful tools in our health and wellness and in implementing new healthy habits. And today's element is actually about tracking your journey to a healthy weight and beyond. So Dave is going to go through the meat of that element in a little bit. I'm kind of hijacking the beginning of our call today because I have a friend that I have reconnected with, and I'm very inspired and excited about her sharing her journey and also getting her connected to our WIN world, and just continuing to have all of us just be this ripple effect that really is so powerful. So without me taking up too more time, I'm going to introduce Joyce. And like I said, we're going to just have her share a little bit about her journey and how we kind of got reconnected now as well. So Joyce, it would be awesome if you would share just a little bit about how life was. And I know you had a couple of big things happen before you got introduced and aware of Optavia, and then the current, the success that you had with Optavia the first time, and then currently, kind of why you're back with us. So I'd love to hear about it.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. How are you? My name is Joyce Pease, and I am so excited to be here. It was so nice to reconnect with Sherry yesterday. My journey began long time ago. We were just talking about that a little bit, but I ended up having gastric bypass back in 2005. I was a constant dieter, a constant yo-yo dieter. I did Jenny Craig. I did Nutrisystem. I did every kind of diet there was, and they all worked. And in fact, I did Fen back in the day because that was the thing. I tried everything and everything worked. I weighed 300 pounds, which was the problem. So I would lose 60 pounds on this one and I would get bored. Then I would lose 60 pounds on this one and I would get bored and gain back more plus. So eventually my doctor said, honey, you're going to die. Your kidneys everything's failing. Your knees are failing. Your body's failing. We need to do something drastic because you can't diet like this anymore. And he said, I suggest gastric bypass for you. And I said, okay, let's try. I'm tired of this. I really need to do something to save my life. And so let me tell you, gastric bypass is not the end all. This was 2005. It's 2022 now. I still have issues, not medical. I never had any medical problems, but I still have to watch what I eat. I still have to eat slow. I can still get sick. I can still have sugar dumps. So it doesn't work for everybody. There's a lot of people that have had it and have been very unsuccessful, who've been very sick. I myself have been very fortunate. It's been great. I was able to keep the weight off for almost the entire time up until about 2014, when I injured my back lifting a table. And I didn't know that I was that badly injured, but it just continued to get worse and worse until I was walking with a child one day. I'm a nanny, so I work with children. I was walking with a child and my hip gave out and I couldn't move, couldn't walk, didn't know what to do. Had to sit for a minute, go back. I finally ended up having a back surgery. Found out 6 months later that doctor had done a very, very poor job. He had almost killed me. He left shards of bone in my back, which had they moved any direction one way or the other, could have paralyzed me. Ended up going to a back specialist that I was referred to by the mom that I was nannying for. And he was like, you had a surgery when? He looked at my x-rays and he goes, it doesn't look like this guy did anything except charge you a lot of money and mess you up. So I had to have a second surgery within a year of my first surgery. After that surgery, my metabolism changed, my body changed, everything changed, and I found myself weighing in about 175 pounds. I am 5'4". My my average weight, I guess I say, is what, 145, 135 and 145 for someone my height and build. And I was miserable. As a nanny trying to chase little kids, I couldn't, my knees were everything was going wrong. I have a friend, I do Mary Kay. So through Mary Kay, I had a friend who was doing the program, and she said, this sounds like something that would work for you. She didn't know about my gastric bypass history. I didn't really talk about it a lot. But she said, with your weight and the back and everything, you should try this program. It works for me. I've lost 100 pounds. Give it a try. Optavia came into my life, and I started the program. And for the first time, the weight just dropped. As it was amazing. I was like, oh, this is the best thing ever. I started coaching. I was trying to do everything and get involved so much. And then I actually ended up losing about 50. I got down to 133 pounds, which was a little light for me. But oh my gosh, when I went to my high school reunion that year, I was the thinnest I'd ever been in my life. Everyone's like, oh my God. I was like, this is what I thought everybody was going to jump on the bandwagon. I thought I was going to be rich and famous. Not so much. Also, after that reunion, both of my kids decided to get married a month apart. My daughter graduated from college with her bachelor's in psychology. So we had all these things. So I was very happy with what I weighed and everything. When all that was over, I never finished the process of transitioning properly. And I don't know whether what happened is my gastric bypass doctor came to me and said, you've been doing so good. You kept your weight off. She didn't know everything that I've been through. But she said, we want to do a commercial. You're outgoing. I would love for you to make a commercial for me for your gastric bypass, which I did. And when that commercial came out, I found myself kind of under the gun with Optavia, because they made me feel like I was a fraud, that I was promoting Optavia, yet here I was making a commercial for my gastric bypass. We never really followed through and said, but the Optavia is the perfect diet for someone who's had gastric bypass, because as a gastric bypass person, you're supposed to eat a lot of little meals throughout the day, have your protein, and do all the things that Optavia actually does. And with the little booklet that came, I didn't know how to do my protein properly. I wasn't eating properly with my gastric bypass either. So Optavia, when I found it and discovered the little chart that says how much protein this weighs, it was like life-changing for me. So that actually worked. Well, because I kind of felt that I was being a little bit shunned for my gastric bypass, I kind of dropped the program. And I went, then the pandemic hit, and I was like, I started to gain some weight again. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to try something different. I'm going to go back to one of my programs I did back in the day. So I researched Nutrisystem, Jenny Craig, and a couple of Weight Watchers. And I was like, you know what? I want something delivered to my house that has all the meals, that has all the snacks, that has the whole thing. So I don't have to go grocery shopping. I don't have to leave my house. It's going to come to me. So I went with Nutrisystem, and I actually liked it. And I didn't lose the weight that I did with Optavia. I lost about 20 pounds. I was feeling good. But then I started cheating it because the food was good, but I started just eating out a lot when the things started getting back to normal. And so I stopped using it. And then we got a big, huge rent increase, and I couldn't afford the program anymore. So I just quit doing anything. And then my husband and I sat down, because I said, I'm just not happy. My son and his wife moved to Hawaii. I have my first grandbaby. My daughter's in India right now. That is not Indiana. That is India, with her husband. He's on a job assignment there. So both my kids were gone. I was just feeling that. and I was just really sad all the time. And I went to the doctor and he said, well, you're struggling with your mental health, you're struggling with your physical health. What seems to have worked for you in the past? And I said, well, I really did like being on Optavia. I felt like it worked when I worked it, when I did it right, when I, was feeling good. So he goes, well, this is what he put me on, a little bit of an antidepressant because of everything going on in my life was crazy. And then, so I started to feel better mentally. What happened, actually, my girlfriend called me. She goes, are you still doing that Optavia thing? I want to do it, but I don't want to do it by myself. And so I was like, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm not coaching anymore. I gave it all up. But I tell you what, I'm going to contact my friend and see about getting back involved with it. And if you want to really do it, we'll do it together. She lives in Utah. I live in California. So everything we do is by text. And we started the program together. Her daughter does dance. She travels all over the place. It's really a struggle for her, but me being on the phone with her every day keeps her motivated, keeps her going. And it helps me because I'm not going to fail my friend and I'm going to beat her. I'm very competitive. So we're working together and we talk to each other almost every other day, and tell each other our successes. And I've only been on it for 2 months. And I'm down almost 10 pounds, 6.6 pounds. So it is working. I'm very excited. And that even includes, like, I went to Vegas this last weekend for my girlfriend's 60th birthday party, and I was able to enjoy the party, come home, and get right back on the program. And I'm super stoked. So
oh my
right
gosh,
now, everything's working.
I'm so excited to reconnect and have you, first of all, share your story. Thank you for being willing to do that. And Joyce is actually, like she said, back 2 months, but we only talked yesterday. So she doesn't even know about the new emotional and intellectual and just our whole Win World stuff yet. So I'm really excited to basically have her share as she is unaware, and then even kind of check back in after she gets connected to some of those things. But the biggest reason why I wanted to have her share for just the big picture of all of us is just the reminder that this is a lifelong journey. And gastric bypass or any surgeries, her doctor said, you're going to die or do this. So in her case, it was the jump start to get going. Some people are going to need to have that be a medical reason because they don't necessarily have the intrinsic reason themselves to get started. But whether, and my next question about her is going to be about some advice as far as getting that going with them. But I think for all of us, whatever your motivation is, there's not a destination. We don't get healthy and we're done. And I just love the fact that it is a lifelong journey, because I think for all of us, it really is a great reminder that we don't have to beat ourselves up about not doing it perfectly, and that we really do get to just continue to learn. And her ripple effect of the fact that somebody else wanted to get started, and that seriously is the thing a lot of times that it motivates us by somebody else wanting to do it with us. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is I really want to make the distinction between our nutrition plans and our program. And I've been around 8 years, and I used to tell people that Optavia really does take over where other diets leave off, but I never really felt like I knew how to do that. Like the company promotes that. Dr. A's always talked about that the habits of health transformational system really is the thing that's the difference between most diets. But I personally wasn't tapping into the book, and I wasn't really fully figuring out how to have that be true. And now that we have a WIN community and we have daily WIN calls and we're doing a LifeBook in Action Zoom, you don't have to feel like you have to figure out how to dive into this and lifestyle changes on your own, because that's the whole thing. If we had figured that out on our own, we would have done that already all by ourselves. And obviously none of us, it's just such a gift that it continues to serve me. And the one thing I want to ask Joyce, and a couple questions, and we'll see if anyone else has some too, and then we'll get to our element for tracking for all of us. But there's some statistics about surgeries in general, weight loss surgeries. And there's a huge percentage of success as far as weight loss, especially immediately. And she did a great job keeping hers very well for almost 10 years. Not everybody makes it a whole 10 years, for sure. And the percentage of stuff that I found is about 25% of them gain their weight back and more. So a question I'd have for Joyce is, knowing what you know now, what would you recommend to somebody new?
Somebody who's had surgery, or somebody in general?
It might be the same answer. So I'm
Okay.
gonna let you see what you
Okay. When I was originally doing the Optavia program, I did so well with the actual 5-in-1. I'll try to rephrase it, because you did correct me on that the program is the whole entire thing. The system that I'm on is the 5-in-1, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So doing the 5-in-1 journey the first time around, I got stuck in that 5-in-1 journey, and I was so afraid of gaining the weight back that I never transitioned. So I think it's important to know when to stop, when you've hit your goal, and not continue on. And knowing that now, I'm going to do it correctly this time and really work on that, because I'm trying to change my lifestyle. So my recommendation would be to make sure that you're following whatever it is you're doing, whatever plan works for you, because if you don't, it will eventually backfire on you. And it did eventually backfire on me, because I got bored and I got complacent, and then I started not following it. But I think it's just because I got to the point where I didn't want to continue, because I was feeling kind of left out, or not, that I didn't get that next step properly. So I really love the program, and I the system, and I think it does work, but you gotta do it. You got to do it correctly.
Well,
and I think having a good backup system helps too. I did everything the first time around. I mean, I got into the coaching and I was going to the meetings. The hard part was, for me, I moved. When I lived in La Habra, going to Brea, because the group we were in was amazing, and I loved it, and I loved the people, and I felt so comfortable there. But when I moved to Corona and I was working in La Habra, and I was all over the place, it was really difficult to get to those meetings and to stick with it. So I probably should have looked for something in my area, but instead I just dropped the ball, which was hard.
And that's, oh my gosh, you guys, I almost have chills, because this is what's so exciting. And some of you have been around the wind world together, probably know exactly what I'm going to say, because what was missing before with many people that I've been around with for the 7 or 8 years, and even me from the beginning, it's not even about transitioning with food perfectly. It's about and Dave's awesome at this. And the element we're on right now is tracking, and next week is transitioning. So I love it that you just kind of gave us a little segue about what we're actually doing here. But there's so many videos about transitioning is a mindset. Transitioning is the transition of making lifestyle changes. You're transitioning how you think. You're transitioning how you're reacting emotionally. You're so that word transitioning, even I'm learning a whole new understanding about. It isn't about transitioning with the food. Yes, there's some structures with that that we can work on, but literally the other thing that's such a gift is win calls are 15 minutes every day, and then there's a little huddle afterwards to dive a little deeper, and they're right here, which means even on this call, Kim's in Seattle, Ralph's in Long Beach, 3 other ones are at least an hour away, Natalie, I don't know. Anyway, the point is, we no longer have that disconnect for people where they feel like and pandemic is the reason it started, but it is becoming it's a gift now. And these are my friends. So I have the exact same feeling that you and I used to have when we would get together in person with these people. Like, I get to basically have breakfast or dinner with them, every day or as often as I want to. And it's helping with the personal work, but it's building community in a way that is supporting my goals and all that for sure. So what I'd love to do before I hand it over to Dave is one last question for which you kind of answered it a little bit already, but Joyce, how would you say that fuelings were beneficial in your journey, or how are you finding them beneficial now?
I'm finding them extremely beneficial. We kind of touched on this yesterday when I was talking. The little girl that I nanny for is amazing. She's such a big help. She doesn't even realize how much she's helping me right now, but she picks out which bar I eat during the day and by color. She loves the colors. So I mix up my bars every day and I'll say pink or blue for lunch, pink or blue. And but they're very helpful for someone like myself who had gastric bypass. I didn't my plan was all over the place before, and I think it was because I wasn't adhering to what you're supposed to do for gastric bypass, which is eat all those little meals. So by having these little meals that are actually perfect for my size and my stomach, it makes it easier for me to, one, follow my gastric bypass rules and regulations. After all this time, you'd think I would have it, but having a gastric bypass surgery is like any other thing. It is life changing. It's life altering. It is not easy. You go through psychological evaluations. You go through doctor visits. It takes almost 6 months to a year before you can actually have your surgery, which a lot of people don't know. They think, oh, you go in, they say you're going to have the surgery and it's over with. No, thank you. Because what happens is, and we touched on this, and it's very important, and that's why I'm going to kind of touch on it, is a lot of people replace food with something else, whether it be alcoholism. I will admit that I went from, because I couldn't eat, I needed something that was a comfort. So I started drinking a lot. My husband and I drank a lot. Was very unhealthy for me. It got my husband in some trouble. He ended up with a DUI, which I no longer drink, period. I didn't even drink wine at my daughter's wedding because I'm afraid. So my whole life changed because of those little things that you replace food with. Or so when you're dieting or in a program or doing anything, you have to be careful that once you get rid of all those foods, what are you doing instead? So you need to do something healthy, whether it's walk, whether it do something, but realize if you're replacing your food with something unhealthy, that you get out of that mindset too. That's very scary, and it's a real thing. And I had to do a lot of research on it and had a long talk with a psychologist about it, because it's very hard. It's a hard thing. But the fuelings actually help me. I'll get back to that. The fuelings help because they're perfect size. They're perfect for what I need to get my life journey back on track. And I'm amazed at how well this is working for me. Nutrisystem, the problem with that program itself was the calorie count was a lot higher than what I'm supposed to have. So I wasn't losing weight. I was kind of maintaining, and I never got past a certain point because of the calorie count. The calorie count and the amount that you can eat is perfect for me. It's what I'm supposed to be on because it actually helps me get back down. So hope that helps.
Anybody have any specific either questions for Joyce or even something that you have an aha about from her story that you'd want to share? Oh yeah, Denise, love it.
Hi, Joyce. I love your
Denise.
story.
Oh, thank you.
I loved your story. I also had a gastric bypass in 2004.
Oh, wow.
And it almost killed me. I was on a ventilator for 10 days. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. And like you, I have all the same things. Had I known about Optavia then and tried it at least 1 month, I would have never had a surgery, ever. And I had the medical issues, but I wanted a quick fix. I played the game with the doctors, got them to do the surgery, much against my whole family. And like I said, it almost killed me. But what I want to say real quick about the fuelings is that those fuelings will bring my blood sugars back to normal so quick, because what happens is if I eat something I shouldn't, go high blood sugar up to 600 and then instantly drop down to 40. And so then it has sent me into a seizure. And
Mhm.
so I have to be really careful about blood
Yep.
sugars. Those fuelings keep me level. And also, I struggled with gaining weight back. And as soon as I rewired my brain, and I've worked this program for a year now,
Mhm.
my life is happy. I'm so
Oh,
happy. I can't
goodness.
stand it. I love
Oh
it.
my
And
gosh.
I
I did
just,
not know that. I did not know that, Denise. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I just, wow.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to ask both of you a clarified question because I heard Denise say she's worked this program for a year. What do you mean?
mentally. I
Yeah.
worked it mentally. I got off the diet thing. Once I got my brain right and happy with myself, loving myself and not comparing myself, not beating myself up and coming to these win calls and the night vision faithfully, it changed my life. It really,
Mhm.
I mean, I can't just explain that to somebody that it does. I'm telling you, if you work it, it will change your life.
Mhm.
And you just automatically, it's not a diet anymore. It's a health journey. And
Mhm.
I welcome you, Joyce, to these calls so much. I hope to see you on here, and bless you for sharing your story. It's awesome.
Because I think what a lot of people don't understand about gastric bypass, and you and I can both verify it, is you can gain your weight back. You figure out ways. You figure out ways. I love cheese. You can eat a lot of cheese. You can eat it. I'm a cheeseaholic. You know, there's things that you can eat that won't get stuck that are
Yes.
very high in calories, and people don't realize just because you have gastric bypass doesn't mean you're going to be skinny for the rest of your life.
Nope.
You learn how to cheat the
Oh, I
system,
learned.
and it will creep back on, and you can become unhealthy. And the problem is when gastric bypass is they actually take your stomach and they staple it down. Your stomach is now this big. The opening to your stomach is the size of a pencil. So if you eat anything that won't fit through this, you will be sick. And then I don't know if it happens for you, but with me, once I start throwing up from this, I can't stop, and it becomes
Nope.
involuntary, and you can't keep anything down for about a day and a half sometimes. And it is scary as heck. And I've been out to eat, and all of a sudden I'm like, my husband can tell now, I start to sweat, I start to get, and I have to, and he goes,
Yep.
bathroom's over there. So it takes a lot to get that surgery, and it is very scary, and it is the whole rest of your life. And
Yep.
and same thing, I think if I'd had the option of Optavia as one of the diet plans or programs back in the day, I had never heard of it before, and I don't even know if it was around back then in 2000, that was 2004, 2005. Yeah,
Not the way it is now, but
It was
Yeah.
MetaFast, wasn't it?
It
Like a
was.
MetaFast
Something.
thing or something? But I didn't know
but
it.
not one of my doctors recommended it.
that's
Nope,
And
me-
maybe same thing, I might have not had the surgery, because they make you lose weight prior to having the surgery
Yeah,
to make
they did,
sure
20
that you're
pounds.
willing to do it, right? And
which
that you
this
can
would have
stick
been a
to
good
it.
tool for that, obviously, too. So
Yeah, so
the one thing I want to really emphasize, because I recorded this video and I
Mhm.
probably will share it in the Together We Win
Mhm.
Facebook group, but I really want this video to be encouraging
oh yeah.
and inspiring for anyone who has had gastric bypass
Mhm.
and is now needing to work through all the things that
Yes.
require, so there's no judgment about whether you did have it or you didn't have it. I just want this to be, I just have a huge heart. I have a few people
Mhm.
in my life who have chosen to have it. I have a few that are considering having it, and I don't have the answers for them. And
Mhm.
even if I did, it's a personal journey that everyone has to work out
Yes.
on their own.
Mhm.
So I just want this to be an inspiring thing. So let's say someone who just had the surgery now has some inspiration and
Mhm.
connection to either the two of you, to how to work on the emotional and the mental with the tools and the resources we have here, plus someone who's considering it, and maybe they can get this information and make a different choice. But either way, no matter what
Mhm.
they're choosing, you two have just given people hope, and that's what we're doing here. And I'm so, and Denise was not planted as someone that I knew, by the way, who even had something to share. So I just love it when these things happen, for sure. So thank you. I mean, thanks for showing up today. Thanks for sharing. And then any other questions, we'll add them in, but I do want to also, yeah, go ahead, Kim, and then we'll let Dave kind of give us some meat from our program.
It's not a question, but I just want to, I put it in the chat, but since this is being recorded, I just really want to acknowledge Denise for the transformation she's made.
Thank you.
Denise, your way of being, your being is lighter and joyful and
Thank you.
I remember when you first came and you were just, she just occurred differently. And you
Oh yeah,
can
and she never came, not much off video and definitely not off audio. Like the first time we asked her to share her story for only 2 minutes on a 15-minute win call, she literally was very uncomfortable. And now look at her.
Oh, yes, no.
I second the notion.
Aw. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
But
Love you guys.
just beautiful. Just like there's a I don't know, a lightness about you that is just
Oh,
glowing.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, I know a lot to follow there. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for you to have to give us some meat now from the
Oops.
Habits of Health. And then I do want to put one little thing in that my yoga class got switched from 10:30 to 10. So I am going to leave probably 10, 12 minutes before 10 so I can stay on my own, lead with my own health first journey. But the recording will just go to iCloud, Dave. There won't be anything that you need to do. And then you all can continue talking about tracking or whatever would be good for you, even if I need to go. And on that note, there you go, Dave.
All right. Okay, so that was amazing. And I think it's interesting that this happened now and this to where we are in the LifeBook, because and Sherry didn't even know what element we are in, so she didn't have some sort of strategy around it. It's just all divine providence. So the thing that came, what I heard a little bit was, and what Joyce was saying, that she never transitioned from a weight loss, and just kind of got stuck in the this is I can't do this forever thing. And a weight loss program is not meant to be forever. So transitioning is so important, and it's actually next week's element. And then I started thinking just sort of in terms of why wouldn't somebody look forward to transition, right? And there's a lot of fear. I think once we, like when I lost 73 pounds and it was my time to transition, I was like, well, I'm scared because I don't know how to do this on my own. But actually what we learned while we're in this weight loss phase, and the more, because the more we really embrace Optavia and the habits of health and all of this, we start understanding, our mind starts clearing up, and we start actually being able to think and make decisions that are rational and not emotional, in terms of going to, all right, well, I've installed these things of eating 6 times a day and drinking so much water and having these fuelings, and it's, we get to a place that it's sort of safe. Oh, we can do this, no big deal. No, we got it down now. And then we get to a healthy weight, this healthy place, and I'm going to, I don't want to change, I'm scared, whatever. And what happens is, if we don't do that, then after a while we're like, this is useless. I don't need to do this anymore. Why am I doing it? I'm being more active, so I'm hungrier, and I'm not all these, and it gets this just space of like, okay, I don't know what to, I'm out of here. Transitioning, and really understanding a handful of components around that. This also kind of goes to, it's basically, why are you motivated, right? So what is your personal desire now? Because all of us go and we're like, oh, we need to lose weight because we're sick, we're uncomfortable, we everything, our whole attitude towards our life is terrible, all these different kind of reasons. And then that gets us going, oh, I'm going to do this. And you hear about Optavia or anything else, you hear about Optavia, you're like, okay, just do this. Okay. Da, 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 da. And we lose this weight and our life changes. And maybe we don't always notice that at the beginning. We're just like, oh, we don't notice our mind changing until until one day we're like, wait a minute, my mind is clear, right? So I'm gonna, before we continue on with about this, it goes back to why are we doing it? What is our personal desire? What do we want? It always starts out with something about I don't want to be sick anymore. I don't want to feel bad anymore, whatever. But after a while, that's gone because you don't feel sick, you don't feel bad. But did you ever think and say, why am I still doing this? And it becomes, oh, you know what? I have this personal desire that you really dig deep down. You know, I want to be healthy. And so then you start moving towards that. And then when you get to the healthy body, and just like, oh, we need to transition, that's scary because if we haven't also then said, okay, what does this mean, a healthy body? What does it really mean? And also, what about a healthy mind? What about, and because if you've been, especially if you've been on this journey through this life book, it's got all these components, all the different components, all the different healthy habits of health that we have to talk about and dig through. But all those things, we want all those things in our life. We want to have this life that looks like that and then continue to really dream. And we've talked about personal desire a lot. And we're going to continue to talk about it because that is the key. Because of our personal desires to be something that's just reachable, right? And I'm motivated because of that. I'm motivated to get to that personal desire because I know it's reachable. I may not know exactly how to get there, but I have this community to help me. But I know that that it's there and that is what I desire. That's what I want. Because if I want that and I desire that, then I'm going to be self-motivated, intrinsically motivated to make choices. So when it comes to transitioning, okay, I'm motivated. So somebody teach me how, or I'm just going to read the book, learn it myself. It's always good to have an advisor. It's always good to have people to talk about it. How can I do this? How can I transition so that I can then, because I'm scared, because I don't know what to do, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue with some of the stuff for them on my own. And I actually have to pick and choose different things to eat rather than just eating up to be all the time. Super important. Now, this element is about tracking. Okay. Now it's not about tracking food. And that's always whatever I talk to anybody like, yeah, I track everything. What are you tracking? Well, how many times I eat, how much water I drink. I'm like, okay, well, that's not this. This isn't about that. This is about tracking for what you want. If you think of it as in terms of tracking your cravings. Am I having a craving? Did I have a craving? Yes or no? What did I do about that craving? Right? Okay, so do I eat did I eat when my hunger level was at a place where it says you need to eat, or did I eat because there was food there, right? So it's tracking this emotional piece and this kind of structural piece of, okay, we eat 6 times a day, small meals. Okay, am I eating those all 6 days, eating all 6 times before noon? Or am I stretching this out? So it's tracking what we're doing in terms of creating these habits and what's that going to look like in transition, because it doesn't change. Transitioning doesn't change the amount of times you feel yourself, the amount of times to hydrate, and the type of sleep and that you're getting. It changes what you're going to eat, because you're going to now, you've been learning how to eat lean and greens, portion size, portion control, and that when we transition, then we're adding some of the other food groups. We don't have to add them all. We have add the food groups that are healthy and that are desirable and give us a whole balanced meal of whole food. So that's what transitioning is. But we have to know what our desire is, because otherwise we can get lost in, I'm so excited I get to eat fruit again. I mean, and I get to eat grain, and I get to eat you know, and then then we go, because this food is not important. The food itself is not important. It's the nutrition that we get from from how we fuel ourselves. So we have to look at this. We have to continue to look at everything as a fueling and how we're fueling our body so that we can live the life we want and we can reach the our dreams and desires that we want because of it. So that is kind of where we go. And so when we talk about this, like I said, if you flip through this element, you're going to see, okay, my goal weight, right? Because you may or may not be at your goal weight when you transition. Because you sometimes you lose a few more pounds when you transition. So you may be at it or you may not, and you're going to have a few more pounds to it, but your goal weight is, you know, that gives you that place of, okay, this is my healthy weight. But that's just a healthy weight. That doesn't mean healthy body. That's healthy weight, right? How about our waist size? All these kind of little things. This is what we're tracking. And to make sure that we're staying in a place that's a health, all these healthy pieces add up to a healthy, add up to the healthy body, right? It's not just weight, it's all these other pieces. And some folks have high blood pressure, stress levels, all these things. Those are all parts of this. So as we're talking about tracking, we're basically making sure and measuring these things if they are part of our journey, high blood pressure, diabetes, all these kind of things. We have to track these things so we know that we're staying on track, right? It's the same thing with just jumping on the scale once a week to say, yeah, okay, I'm still where I'm supposed to be. Oh, why do I have 5 pounds more than I did last week? And so it's a way to sort of pay attention to and tracking our life, right? Because we can go, whatever. But if it's paying attention to that, go, oh, okay, and then think, then if the scale has changed, the belt size and the waist size and change, and then that's helping you acknowledge, oh, okay, this is why. There was a massive party, I had a lot of fun, gained 3 pounds. Okay, I just have to stick with. There's nothing about starting over. It's nothing about going on a diet. It's nothing like that. It's like, let me just continue on with these healthy habits that I have. And so that's then the transition I'm open to help anybody transition and all the steps that take from going from a weight loss program to transitioning to this whole food lifestyle. And that brings me to this next piece. This is about tracking, right? And this is about tracking. And tracking is always the after thing. Tracking what I did, right? So what I encourage in this next piece is planning what you're doing. Okay, so rather than being reactive and go looking into the past, but to be planning and make a plan for what it is. So if you're transitioning, you plan the transition, and then once you transition, you're now on what we call optimization. You're optimizing your life, and then use a plan of what that looks like. And if a plan always it's similar in certain structures. We're fueling 6 times a day. We're drinking a certain amount of water. We're getting a certain amount of sleep, right? So then it comes down to planning, because this is where people are like, oh, I wrote down everything I ate, right? And you can look at that and it's, and sure, sometimes it's going to be like, oh, I eat all this other food, but sometimes it's like, if you're true to yourself, which is my biggest comment always, is don't lie to yourself. And if you go back and look at that, you're like, yeah, I had this party, and you're backtracking. So nothing you can do about it, because you are writing down what you did. You didn't write down what you're gonna do. If you write down what you're gonna do, and what you're gonna do is what you want to do, if your desire is to eat healthy, and you sit down and my desire to eat healthy, let me plan my meals for this week, and you plan this meals, And you pull this book out and you're like, okay, how many servings of this and how many servings of that and how big is a serving? So how big is a protein serving, everybody? Come on. Protein size.
5, 6, or 7 ounces.
Okay, that's if you're weighing it, your scale's broken. You gotta eyeball it.
Deck of cards.
Deck of cards, palm of your hand, about that size, right? So, oh, what I can let's see. What about my vegetables? How many servings of vegetables can I have? Right? So you're gonna have 3 servings of vegetables. So how big? How do you know how many ounces? Right? One cup? 1 cup is a serving? Yes?
Depends.
It depends, right? So, but understanding it, right? So then if we go out to eat, we get to the restaurant, we order food, blah, blah, then we go write it down. We're like, I had a steak. How big was it? Oh, 12 ounces probably. How much salad? Well, a tiny little bowl. How much rice? About half a plate, right? Now, if you have a plan and you go into the restaurant and you sit down and you say, I want 6 ounces of steak, I want 3 cups of salad, and I don't want any rice, or I only want a very small 1 scoop of like a ice cream scoop of rice, right? And then you're gonna you've told them what you want. That's what they're gonna serve, and then you don't have to bother trying to figure out, oh, let me cut all this and put it on this other plate and all this stuff. You don't have to do that because you are controlling what the narrative. You're controlling what's going to happen because you have a plan. Okay, now you can write a plan, which is always a good start. This is how many servings of or how many ounces of protein I can have a day. This is how many ounces, and then you put that to this is how much chicken, how much pork, how much beans, how much steak, whatever, and plan this out. So now you're going to eat, you're going to fuel yourself in the future with your plan. Because then you're going to go shopping and you're going to buy the food that's on your list that says, I only need these small ounces. You're not going to buy a giant thing of meat to feed yourself and maybe your spouse or whatever, right? You're going to buy 2 pieces of chicken and, and just whatever, so that you have just enough to, when you cook it and it's the right amount. So it's really having this plan that says my kitchen is filled with food I'm going to eat this week, and then I'll be gone, and I just could cook that size because that's all I need. I'm only going to do this. Then I'm going to shop again and get more. It changes I went to Costco and bought everything on every shelf for me and my wife. So 6 months worth of, bars and stuff and spaghetti and everything else we don't need, because it was a good deal. We're switching this to plan to, look, I'm feeding 2 people or 4 people or whatever. I don't need that much. So I'm going to buy the amount that I need, and I'm going to know how, if I have to buy a large amount, I know how to break that down into the serving, into how we're going to fuel ourselves. So that becomes the planning, right? Tracking is about our biological situation. Planning is about how we're going to fuel ourselves. We do it when they say, hey, this is Optavia. They say, Dave, what are you doing? I want to lose weight. I weigh a lot. And that's my whole goal, is to lose weight, not even a number, just lose weight. Then they say, all right, here's what you're going to do. You're going to do this 5 in 1. You're going to eat these 4 bars or shakes or whatever, right? You eat those every 3 hours, and then you're going to have 1 meal, but all you can have is some vegetables and a small piece of meat. So that's a plan. I follow the plan. I do the thing. Now I don't have to worry about it because it's all I have. I get the next to do it every day. And then it's like, oh, you eventually I figured out, oh, I actually this is what I want. I want to lose 73 pounds. I want to be at this place. And oh, my mind is clearing. I want to, and so now I start being more particular about what I want. what I desire. And then when it's time for me to transition, and it's like, oh my gosh, we have that same conversation. Okay, look, you're gonna eat these things, right? Here's the plan. But now you're gonna actually eat 2 lean greens. Okay, and you're gonna actually have some grains in there, and you're gonna have some dairy. And so this is the plan. And then I follow the plan. And that's how we get to this place where we are now, we have to know what we want. What is our personal desire? What do we really want to have? Because then we're going to make these choices, and we're going to make a plan to get there. So if, and we're young kids or whatever, going into college, let's say, anybody who went to college is going, okay, well, they're like, what do you want to do? And like, I want to have a degree. Okay. I want to graduate. With what degree? Oh, this degree. Okay. So now here's your classes. You're going to take these classes freshman year, these ones sophomore, this one's junior, these one's senior, then you graduate. And there's a plan. So you usually know about what class you're going to take for the whole entire time, and you just take those classes and they go, hey, you graduated, good for you. Because there was a plan. If you get in there and you're like, yeah, and a lot of people do this, they don't really know. A lot of the kids coming to high school, they don't know. It's like, I don't know, this looks fun, but that's a fun class, you know. And eventually, though, because they're just drifting around and they're not getting close to graduating, and then they're like, oh, you know what? I actually want to graduate. I don't want to be here forever. So then they go, let me just make this plan. They meet with an advisor who says, yeah, you need to plan. Let's help you, and voila. You know, and it's okay, but that's kind of like where we are when we're like living our life, and then we're like, oh my gosh, something's weird about my life, and I want it to be different. And I have I'm unhealthy, so I find Optavia, and then now I have to be on my own, and so now I learn how to plan, and all these pieces. Always, and what leads us to all this is us knowing what we want, what our personal desire is. And it's, you know, even if it's just a short-term personal desire, I want to lose weight, or you know, I want to get a healthy mind. All these those are important, and sometimes that's all we're thinking of. But then later, I think as we get closer, we're like, I want more than this. And so that's what this element. First of all, although what Joyce and Denise shared today kind of says, it's an encouragement of, hey, figure out what you want. And, you know, this element then is like, pay attention to your biology, to all your biological measurements, because that's important. Because when we talk about a healthy body, those are important things. You could be like, you could be the proper weight and got good muscle mass and all of that, but you could be messed up in the mind, and you could have blood sugar problems, and you can have all kinds of different things going on in your body that are not healthy. Kimmy?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's interesting too, because once you start seeing movement in one area, another area will have movement, and they're not necessarily things you would connect. My biggest weight loss drops happened after a mindset shift. So it's interesting. And once like my mind decided, oh, hey, this actually works, suddenly I was more motivated to move, because I'm like, oh, well, okay, now I have energy, and now I can, you know, be doing things longer throughout the day, especially with having narcolepsy. You know, it's like, oh, okay, wow, you know, and I didn't even notice, like you said, those habits get installed, and it starts affecting your life, and it becomes your new normal. And until you reflect, like you're not even aware sometimes that you have a new normal. And it took Donnie going, yeah, you're up having calls with people till like 8 o'clock at night, where you used to come home from work and crash at 3:34. And I'm like, oh, you're right. And the only thing that changed is I'm fueling my body properly now, you know, and maybe moving a little more. So yeah, it's interesting how it all integrates.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the whole key, is that it's not just one thing about our lives. We find this desire to change when when one thing gets just so far out of whack, like no, there's something wrong here. Finally, I've noticed, even though it's probably been, for probably all of us, it's been years of buildup till you hit that pain where you're like, what? That awakens that, and you get this sort of the original. What you want is to not have the pain or whatever that was, and you then make choices towards that, right? The challenge of being healthy is managing the pain, because most of us get super unhealthy, then we find that pain point and we go, oh, make this change, and then we went from here to here, and we're like, oh, we're good, but we're so far from good, it's ridiculous, but our pain is gone and start until it hits again. One of the beauties of Optavia is most people come to Optavia because the pain of being unhealthy, and usually a weight thing. We go through this process, and in that weight loss, our mind gets clear, our relationships get better, before we notice that, wow, you know what, that used to be a bad relationship. And I always had negative thoughts about everything, and now we're having positive thoughts, and relationships are better. And then we start this recognition of, like, this is more than losing weight. This is a lifelong transformation. And it's been 8 years since Sherry and I got involved in this, and we've been doing this LifeBook for 3 years now. Every Saturday, I don't think we've ever missed a Saturday. Like, it would happen on a Saturday, whether I can make it or not. And Kimmy's done this while I was out a couple of times. It's just, we keep getting back to having these conversations, because we talk about the same thing almost every week, because it's really about this, all of us figuring out why are we motivated to move towards health? So what is it that we want? And so it's a continual conversation for each of us, which is really good, because sometimes our desires just fall short of what we really want, because we don't believe we can dream that way, until one day we're like, hey, I'm changing mine to something way out here, because all of a sudden it snapped. We're like, oh, I get this. I heard something on a call that told me, oh yeah, I'm just not letting myself dream, Jerry and I were having a conversation the other day. I did that habit finder thing with Dave Ramsey, and he told me I'm a fantastical dreamer. Like, my dreams are fantasies rather than, reachable. Two things. One, okay, so I got to set some goals. But number two, I'm going to fantasize all I want to what could be, just so that I can get to what I think's good enough. Because if I can't ever reach what I'm really like, what this fantasy is, I'm still going to try. And I'm still going to go for it, because I'm going to hit all these other things that I've been like, I expect to get those things. I don't necessarily expect to get this thing, but I'm getting everything else while I'm trying to reach that. So for me, I'm good with that. I'm good with that being the way I see it. And at first I was like, oh, I got to process this and figure this out. Am I doing something wrong? Is that, whatever? But no, I do that because I know that is going to make me reach the stuff that and surpass anything else that I would have started with. So when I got on this program, it was the same thing. I was like, yeah, I want to lose some weight. But then I was like, I don't know how much weight. But then I was like, I'm just going to lose weight. And then everything else started changing. And then I'm like, I'm going to get down to where my doctor says I'm healthy. That was really what it came down to, in my weight. But then the rest of it, how do I do that? How's my mindful thing? And being on this call every Saturday, this is the only thing that I do every week that I do not miss unless I'm gone. Even last time I had to miss, I was in Mammoth. I still got on the call, but I just wasn't leading it. And it's that's, I mean, think about that. Kim, you've been on this call the entire time. Sonia's been on
Yeah.
for a super long time.
It's really about like removing our limits or challenging our limits. Like that's what I really get from this call. And sometimes we're not aware of our limits. So we have to like really coming back and going through this 3 times. I always hear something new from someone's share, or just I'm in a different place than when I heard it last year. Right. And so there's always, I will probably forever be on this call just because it really does. It has me either acknowledge how far I've come or look newly at what am I dealing with? You know, what's limiting me, what's stopping me. And it gives me tools too, you know, like Sherry and I had a conversation yesterday where I made a plan for my summer. I'm a teacher and I'm like, okay, I want to have a plan because I don't want to sit back and let my summer slip by like it has in the past. So as far as like movement, as far as mindset, I'm going to be on Ignite Vision calls. I'm going to be on our wing calls. I'm going to have some business, you know, power hour that I'm going to do. And then I've got a plan to go walking with a neighbor every day. I'm like, okay. And if we don't, we don't. But like you want to have those goals and then, okay, we either reach them or we don't. Right. And so every day, and I'm like, if I get my day started that powerfully by 10 a.m., I'm feeling like I've accomplished things. Then I'm ready to hit the ground and go, okay, let's knock out this closet. Let's knock out this shed. You know, I'll have what I need to not just be sitting on the couch, like, you know, binge watching Netflix. So, yeah.
So true, Kenny. Yep. Yeah. Comes down to what do we want? Hey, Donnie. You want to talk?
Go on, Dave. Thanks for leading the call. I also wanted to add to what Kim was saying. Consider that sometimes our limits can be what our norm is. So like a great example is Kim and I used to not be able to talk in the morning. Now, did we, as we've grown, like our mornings are amazing now. Like we can sit and have a conversation in the morning. Now, one piece of that was neither of us accepting that that's how our morning was, like getting past that. And that was like what we're always calling the obstacle, right? So just sometimes what there is to look at when you have a limit, you see something stopping you, but you don't even necessarily know what it is to look at your norms. What's your normal routine? And like look at what you want to create with it. I know that's what's been working for me as far as like shifting my mind, as far as personal development, just growing over, especially over this last year. It's just been like really amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for listening to that.
And one thing I've really seen with him is like in the mornings, he used to like snooze, jump out of bed, go. I gotta get out of here. And I'd be like, oh, but I wanted to tell you today at the end of the day, we need to blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, hey, could you stop by the bank or whatever? And he'd be like, why are you like bothering me with these logistics? I have to go, right? He had this, like, here's my path. And now I'm interrupting the path, right? He took on an unhurried life. And now he gets up in the morning, he has his vitamins in his food and he comes out and we're able to like have a conversation knowing I'm respecting you still have to get out the door, right? But we can do that. And that was like a lot of his work that he did and he took on. I couldn't say, dude, you need to slow down and like, you know.
Production mindset. That's how my life has always been. It's been a production mindset, right? So what I shifted about the routine part of it, I've had multiple mindset shifts when they didn't come just from routines. But the routine part of it is I didn't stop snoozing my alarm. I still snooze my alarm. I have 5 alarms that go off in the morning. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, well, you should have an alarm go off. You should blah, 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 right? Well, I created what I chose. What I chose is to continue with the alarms, but to start my alarms a little earlier and get up and give myself a good half hour to 40 minutes to actually stretch in bed and lay in bed for a half hour to 40 minutes to forward like my performance with my back, because of I have 2 deteriorated discs, and doing all my morning abdominal routines as well as back stretches, dynamic stretches I do, and really taking the time for myself to actually wake up rather than just go. And I even do that at work, even though I'm in a production-based job. I still do that at work. And you know what's so cool? I've communicated all that, and I have nothing but like respect and acknowledgement at my workplace now. So, because people know like what I deal with my back.
Yeah, that's awesome. But two things that Donnie was talking about. One is the whole morning routine. That's a healthy habit. That's part of the sleep, the habits of healthy sleep. There's a hour before you go to bed, hour after you wake up, that you set aside for preparing yourself for the day, or at the end of the day, preparing yourself for sleep. Those are super good habits, because in the evening, it allows you to then actually get in a place so that by the time you get to bed, you're ready to go to sleep. You've done with your little business and your phone and your whatever, and it just gives you a place where now you're at this piece of, okay, this last hour, I got rid of all the whatever I had to think of, I got to write all this down that I don't do tomorrow, or whatever it is. And then you're able to get into bed and go to sleep. And in the morning, able to wake up, and in Donnie's case, he stretches and takes care of himself. And the alarm thing's a great idea, because especially if you are, if it works with his sort of like a stretch and then maybe relax, and then, he could fall into a light sleep, and then the alarm goes off, stretches some more, however that works. That's important, because then when he gets up and he's ready to go. He can have conversations with Kim. They can have these these are times where that's an intimate thing to be like, oh, instead of, hey, I'm out of here, baby, woo, see you, I'll be back. It's, hey, you know what? Yeah, we are together, and we're gonna, hi, it's a day, I love you, and and instead of just like when Sherry and I first got married, and especially when we had kids, I was up. I was like, I was always like asleep until I wake up. At the last minute, I get dressed and I'm gone, right? And so Sherry was always asleep when I left for 10 years before we changed any of that. So it was super powerful and healthy. The other thing he said is create. And that I say that all the time. I really believe that what we're doing in our lives is creating health. We're creating health is what we're doing by being part of these calls, by being part of Optavia, by just reading this book, by making these changes in our lives. It's about creating health and creating what we want and how we want it. Donnie.
Take every opportunity to acknowledge what you created.
Say it again.
Take every opportunity to acknowledge and declare it out loud and share it with others what you created. Because it doesn't come into existence unless you do.
Yep. Anybody else have anything to share? Go ahead, Joyce.
Hello. Hi. Yeah. So I'm so on board with everything I'm just hearing. This is the part of my program from before that was missing. When I lost the ability to go to meetings and stuff, that's when I dropped off the map, because I didn't feel like I had the support. This is amazing what you're doing. Just want to feel that. But I have to be at work at 6:30 in the morning. I have to leave at 6. I could choose to get up at 5 and rush. I used to do that. Now I choose to get up at 4 a.m. I do all my chores. I sit down with my coffee and I think about how I'm going to deal with the 3-year-old for the rest of the day for 10 hours. So, I'm giving myself the opportunity, like you said, to take that time to regroup, to focus, and it has made a big difference. Getting up at 4 a.m. sucks. But let me tell you, after doing it now for 3 years, it has become a routine. It has become a habit. I get up when my husband's at home. He travels for a living. When he's at home, we both get up at 4 a.m. And I used to sleep like Sherry, and he would get up and leave, and we never saw each other. And then we got an hour at night maybe. But by getting up with him, we get our coffee when he's home. We get to talk. I can tell him, hey, this is what's going to happen through it's important. And if you have a partner that you need that time with, it's really important. And I wasn't giving it that importance. So by putting importance on my life, my marriage, we're in a better place now. It has made things better. Just an extra hour in the morning. It's not easy. And it was hard at first, but man, just one extra hour, because at night we come home, we have like an hour to eat dinner, and we both have to be in bed. We're in bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock, which makes us old. The other thing that I also changed, and what changed my mindset this time around too, is my goal the first time around, be skinny for my high school reunion where I've always been fat. And I did that. Be nice and thin looking for my kids' weddings, which I did. What I didn't do was what happens after that. I had this goal, this is what I'm going to do, and I did it. But I didn't plan on what happens after.
Yeah.
This time around, my mindset is so different. I'm a grandma now. I don't want to be the fat grandma like my grandma was. I want to be the sexy grandma, or the healthy, the happy grandma that everybody wants to be around. So I have this long-term plan. I have a grandchild now. I want to be healthy. I want to be around for that grandchild. I want to be able to play on the ground with them. And so I now have a long-term goal. It's not, I'm going to lose this weight and then I'm done. And I have nothing else after that. You got to think, what comes after? I think that's where things are different this time. I'm thinking into the future. Once I hit my goal, when I hit my goal, I now know that I want to maintain it. I never thought about what happens when I hit my goal before. My goal has always been lose that weight and get it off. Never had a plan. And then when my plans changed because I moved and I didn't have my group to support me, never got what happened after. I never got the after. So having this conversation about transitioning and having an after, I think, yes, you need a why and you need a why you're doing it, but you need to have an after. You have to have a what's going to happen when I get there. Why am I going to keep continuing on?
Yeah.
And I think
And
that's something that I never thought about before.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, and that's when we say personal desire, and we use that term, that's for the long term. Like, what's my personal desire in my let's see. So the personal desire is not just about weight, right? The personal desire is about healthy body, it's about healthy mind, it's about healthy finances, it's about healthy family, it's about healthy spirituality, it's about healthy friends, it's healthy community, healthy emotions, healthy intellect, healthy relationships. Those are the minimum that it's about. So what we kind of like, some of us have come up, like Sherry, myself, Kim, Donnie, we've come up with our sort of like how we explain our personal desire. Mine is to live a life arms wide open. Okay, it encompasses all of those things. Kimmy's is living life lit up. Sherry's is living life out loud. Donnie's is living an unhurried, let me see, unapologetic, unhurried, unapologetic life.
You got it.
Yeah. So, and then I think Sandra shared hers, and to be purposeful and encouraging. Ralph's live unafraid, open-minded, and in the moment. Those are the ones that have been shared that people have put now it doesn't mean that it has every component, but the process of coming to something that you're building towards that. And the more we talk about personal desire, the more each one of us, I believe, kind of picks another piece and goes, let me just put it in there, you put that in there too. It's that creation that we talk about a lot on here. Donnie mentioned it. We're creating this life that we want to live. So this is, so if we look at that in this bigger picture of our personal desire, this is what my life should look like. You know, it's basically throwing a rainbow up above us and being like, that beauty is what my life is, and I'm going towards that. And it encompasses all these things that we can't necessarily just say, this is the thing, because it's not, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's a moment, it's whatever. And we live towards that and make a decision comes our way and we're like, that's towards my personal desire. So yes, that's not towards my personal desire. So no. And that gives us these opportunities to, especially like for your example, Joyce, you're back with us. You're on this call. You're welcome to be on this call every single Saturday. We'd love to have you. Then if that's part of your personal desire, what it sounds like it is, a community, then you'll probably get on almost no matter what. You know, you don't have to be on with, you maybe like, I'm going to be out of town, whatever. You could just jump on, line the call. And so sometimes we don't even know who's on the call because they're just on their phone, but the phone just gives a phone number or not their name or whatever. So it's like, we figure that out as we go, or you don't have to have a video or whatever, because whatever meets the needs, but your desire is to be here. So you're here, and then it's just expansive in everything that you're trying to do.
Hey, Dave, I see Angelica is unmuted. Did you want to jump in?
I just wanted to share for what she was talking about, her own experience. Sometimes we do things for others, like she was having those little goals, and now she sees as a grandmother. But what if your grandchild goes away for, they need to move somewhere else and you don't have that goal anymore? So we got to go, like he was saying, go farther into what I want for myself. What kind of a quality of life do I want to live in my elderly years? What do I want for myself, for my well-being? So yes, you do it for your grandkids and you do it for the graduation reunion and you do it for all these other things. But in reality is, to the end, is what kind of life and how do I want to get to my elderly years? So I want to be an old woman that is laying on bed and not being able to move and articulate, or do I want to be this young looking old lady roaming around and enjoying nature and enjoying all of these things, and coming to this community is just amazing because there's a saying, if it's in your mind, if it's in your mind, if it's in your thoughts, it's in your life. So having this community keeps all that within our mind. So we have constant reminders of where we want to go. Like he was saying, is this where I want to do? Is this where I want to be in my own personal development, in my own personal life? This is where I see my picture. Okay, then I'm going to be there. So thank you. Yeah, it really helps me to see. I take care of my elderly parents, and they have a lot of limitations based on all the harsh they put into their bodies, when they were younger. And so I always have that example. Do I want to come to be in my 70s, 80s, the way they were, the way they are now? Or do I want to have a better quality of life? So this is just what brings me always back to making my choices and stopping. Okay, no, this is really not what I want. This is really what I want.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Hi, this is Joy. This has been
Hey,
an
Joy.
awesome call. I'm so glad I came this morning. Thank you, Joy, for sharing your story and everyone else. Yeah, I was thinking while the last person was speaking, I can't see because I'm on the phone, but I was thinking, like, because I'm like 60 now, so like I want to know, I want to have that goal to be able to keep walking, keep enjoying nature, like you were saying, and be present of mind and be alive and a part of communities and families, and that's all desires, like personal desires to me. And yeah, if I think about like, man, if I was stuck in a chair, if I had an injury and stuff like that, and I couldn't move.
Joy?
Off of, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. You
Hello?
dropped off, so we missed a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I basically I feed off of all that movement and all that community and family, like we all do, like, right? That is what brings us joy and happiness, is being present and being a part of, not just spectating in a chair. Like, I can remember my mother-in-law, when she went into the nursing home, she said, "I'll never be coming out. This is it," you know, and that hit me hard, because it's like, that's the end part of your life, when, you know. And she had Alzheimer's, and she started falling a lot and stuff, so it wasn't safe for her to be by herself anymore.
Yeah.
What was that? I think I can't hear what you're saying.
No, nobody said anything.
Can you? Oh, okay. Yeah. So, you know, I want to stay out of the nursing home as long as I can, you know, and not have to have someone take care of me, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I'm going to say for now. Thanks for
Joy.
listening.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I mean, that's a good. Now that's a good example of going. Okay, can you see it? Of moving. That your intrinsic motivate, your personal desire up to reaching these larger than life, like any places, right? So it's not, it takes it from I just want to be healthy to, and I want to live a long life. I want to live a long, healthy life, and health is where all that I want my mind to be sharp, my body to be healthy, you know, I be emotionally healthy, right? It's this whole bigger picture that we can look at, that we need to now start living towards, so that we are, because we never get to, hey, this is the perfect health. You don't get there, because this is being maintained.
Yeah, and not having regrets, right?
Yeah.
Not having regrets that you didn't do something different. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So in each different element, each different part of our lives, we have to have this desire of what we want that to look like. And it's great to have, each of us have a picture that we start with. I want to be, like Joyce, you said you want to be a healthy grandmother. Basically, you just like, I want to be there. I want to be able to pick up the kids. I want to be able to play with the kids. I want to be able to interact with them. I want to be able to love them. And then also, but it's, and I think that's what Joanne was saying, is that it? Or do you want, as the grandkids grow up and move away, what else? Right. So okay, what is your life? Is it, because how does it, what happens then? So in terms of like what's more that you desire for yourself? So as we continue to, all of us continue to kind of talk about and learn and really dream about what this really, my personal desire is for long term in all of these things. So that, because there's a place where all of us are we don't want to end up alone and sick and lonely and whatever. So how, in all of the pieces of our life, where does that go? Where does that desire take us? What does it look like for us? You know, so be open to stuff that's like me, fantastical. So because I want to have enough money to, if my grandkids move to somewhere else, I can fly over there as long as I want. I can buy a house next door so that I could live there for 3 weeks at a time. Then go to my other live near my other grandkid in a different state for 3 weeks in a row, have my own house, right? Some fantastical dreams that just give me the whole desire to move toward making sure that I have what I'm actually wanting is such special relationships with my grandchildren, my children, my brothers, my family, my friends. It's just such a special, you know, like what does that mean to me, right? Or what is that special relationship, right? So that I want to be in a place healthy, everything that I can go and have good relationships with all these people in my life. I have 4 children. Hopefully I have lots of grandchildren, and I want to be able to be around and be able to have the capacity to go visit them wherever they live if they move away, right? And if they and what about, and same thing with my friends, and have relationships. I know Kim for 30 years, so we still got another 40 years before we, you know, hit 100 years old. So that's when we are 50 years, 50, 45 years. So that we can still be friends and be 100 years old together and be like, you know, how many people have friends that long, right? How many people? So having this desire to, for me, is about relationships. And Kim and Joyce was talking about relationships. And so when it comes down to it, we can have all the toys and money and everything like that, but relationships usually seem to be the ones that are the most important. When we're sitting on our deathbed, whether we've outlived everybody or not, maybe somebody's there who says, you know, it's a relationship. It's what it is. It's all about relationship. Joyce, that's great. Yeah. So yeah, these are the things. That's a great little story right there. So that's what we're all looking for, is what do we really want? So what do we really want? What is that desire? If we know what our desire is, we're going to move towards that desire. And most of the time it comes down, and I talk about all these different things. We always talk about healthy family, healthy community, healthy friends, all that stuff. Those are all relationships. There's other stuff in there. Being healthy for yourself so that you can be healthy with people. I think that's really a nice way to look at it, because I used to ask everybody, what do you want? And everybody's like, I want to be healthy for my family, right? Especially moms. That's what they always say at the very beginning. I want to be healthy for my family. Okay, well, you got to be healthy for yourself too. You can't be healthy for your family if you're not healthy for yourself first. So be healthy for yourself, be healthy for your family. And basically, that's what it is, that life is all about relationships. So if we're healthy in all these different capacities, we need to have the health in everything to help us. If we are moving towards health in all capacities, then we are expanding our capacity for love, for life, for creation, for just for a life well lived, really. And again, I want to be on my deathbed going, I have 0 regrets. 0. In the last year, I have gone to my parents and all my brothers and all my kids and my wife, and I said, look, I have no regrets in our relationship. I love you. I have nothing. I hold nothing against you. I want you to know that, because if I die or you die, if I die, I don't want you to be in a place where you're like, I don't know if you loved me or not, or he was so mad at me. I want everybody to know that how much I care about them, and that if I'm gone or if you're gone, either of us should be at peace with our relationship and have no regrets. So the sadness of me being gone, or the sadness of you being gone, will not disrupt my life. I will not fall apart and I don't want you to fall apart, because death is part of life. So it's coming for all of us. But how our relationships are, and how we are at peace with each other, and how much we love each other, and how much grace we give each other, that is a something that I want people to know, so that, because I know people who've had somebody die who then carry this grief and this guilt of not saying I loved you, or I'm, you know, or whatever, not clearing it up, and they carry that for the rest of their lives. And vice versa. Somebody could be like, I never told them I loved them, and carry that for the rest of their lives. So either way, I don't want that to happen to people that I love. So that I've been making a point to have conversations. People are very uncomfortable with the conversation, but at the beginning, by the end, they're like, wow, that's just like the most amazing conversation I've ever had with you. Thank you. You know, because there's so much power in that, to just, you know, say, you know. And if you do, if I do have an issue with them, I'll say, like, here's the issue. But most, for me, I don't have issues with people, because I already decided a long time ago that, well, if the person's gonna be in my life, then if we disagree, whatever, that doesn't make the person, if I want them in my life, then it's not gonna bother me. It's not gonna be a thing that I'm gonna hold on to. They can be mad at me, yell at me, whatever. But I'm not gonna hold on to that and be like, you yelled at me one time, so I have this grudge against you. That's about, I do that, then I'm gonna have regrets one way or the other. I'm gonna die, and that person's gonna regret because of me, or they're gonna die and I'm gonna regret that I didn't fully love them, right? So for me, that's how I kind of measure my personal desire in all these categories, is I need people to know that, you know, that I care about them. So that's kind of how I look at it. Is there any last comments? We've gone 30 minutes, 35 minutes longer than usual, which is wonderful. I'm good with that. Just so you know, if you ever have to jump off, just because you got to jump off, you know, no bad feeling for anybody. We understand everybody's got stuff going on. We usually end at 10, but today was a special day, and I think it's been a really powerful call.
Just thank you so much.
Well, thank you for sharing. And how do you say your name?
Angelica.
Angelica.
Yes.
Well, it's very nice to meet you. You're a friend of Kim's, I guess.
No. I've been in the call a few times. I'm friends with Cherry. I've been at your house.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Sorry.
with Lucy. I'm friends with Lucy. Well, in Zoom, and I haven't done myself.
Well, thanks for being on the call and sharing.
Thanks,
today.
everybody. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
get going. Bye.
Yeah, me too. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks for being on the call. Joyce, thanks for being on the call. It was good seeing you again. You're on mute.
Hopefully I'll be able to join you next Saturday. My Saturday nights I normally work, but I'm usually off doing bills at this time. So hopefully I'll be able to jump in on Saturdays. During the week, I'm usually commuting, so I can listen, but I can't really converse.
Yeah, for the wind calls, that's good. That's good
Yeah.
though. The wind calls are good because you don't really need to.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk, and it's and so.
So I'm going to try to do the one. I think it's at 6 o'clock. That's usually when I'm driving home. I'm driving to work at 6 a.m. and I'm driving home around 5:36 at night. So.
Yeah, I think that's the evening wind call. It's a good one. Yeah, and then if you know, anytime you get on these, we'd love to have you.
Great. Good to see y'all.
Bye.
Bye.